Strack.
Here.
Weedman.
Here.
Mack.
Here.
LaCroix.
Here.
Mesco.
Here.
Northern's absent. And Parkinson.
Here.
That's a quorum. Let's recite the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could have a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second. Are there any questions?
Mesco.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
LaCroix.
Aye.
Parkinson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have any public comments this evening? Board reports. If anyone has anyone they want to chat about.
A week ago, we hosted a meet of Science Olympiad, and some stats there might be interesting to you. This is at GMS. There were 47 teams there from different schools, and a couple more from Indiana and Wisconsin, and over 900 kids all day long participated in different competitions. And there were over 40 volunteers that helped out with a lot of things, everything from directing cars to dumping trash, you name it. So it was a successful day. And I think Marcus got a letter, a very nice letter from somebody who was just proud of the way things ran that day. It was a good happening.
Even with the weather, it still turned out.
Yeah, yeah. And the people, the teachers remarked what a great job the staff did on getting things cleaned up, even with bad weather. Good job.
And that tournament now is almost as big as the state tournament. So, which is, I don't know how many teams go to that one, but it's so. Let's see, anybody else?
We did have a diversity committee meeting last week, the first one since before the winter holiday. So we're back meeting. We added, I believe, 3 new members to the committee, I think. And the discussion at this past committee meeting was the next steps. After everything that we had done with putting those pieces together, the next step is to continue discussing how we are approaching diversity in the district and what training that we as a committee are going to try and seek out. One of the instructional coaches is going to present, Laura was it, I believe? Laura Golden is going to present to us what she presents to, and help me here, Paul, she presents this to National Louis University. She gives a course on diversity training and equity training, and she's going to present her course, which is typically an 11-week course, am I right? To us over the course of the next 2 diversity meetings, so we see what's out there in the literature and what is being taught in the schools to prospective teachers, so that we understand what's going on.
Can we just sit in on that?
Oh yeah.
When is it?
When is the next one?
It's going to have to be not the next one, but the one after, because her son is in some sort of a sporting event. So I'll get you the dates.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
do we need? Was David there?
No.
So do we need to post it?
We post the diversity meeting always. So.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you're going to distribute that widely, but I'd be interested in that. Well, I'm not sure when the diversity committee meets, but
It's well.
Isn't it every other Wednesday when we're not meeting?
Oh no.
Not
No.
really.
Okay.
No.
We'll get you the dates.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, this Friday at midday, there's several of us are going over to Waukegan to see a garden project that seems to be successful there. So I'm interested in seeing what goes on there. Having just come from the farm, we'll see.
Anyone else?
we did sit down and meet with Representative England today. We had that meeting with him. We went over a wide range of topics from property tax freeze, education funding, the funding formula, possible vetoes that might be coming, when we might see money coming. So there was a long, we were there an hour and a half roughly with him, and we've kind of come to a tentative agreement that we would probably put on some sort of forum with him as a joint forum regarding property taxes and school funding, and try and get the word out there how everything is working and what's going on at the state.
we expressed to him our concerns about property tax freeze and pension cost shift and those sorts of things, so. He can't say he's not aware of the impact of those decisions, so we shall see what happens.
So is he I mean, was he pretty receptive to what you were saying?
Well, I wouldn't, he supports a tax freeze.
Okay.
That he listened to what we had to say, and he understands what we're saying as far as what the negative impacts on school districts in particular are for property tax freeze and the other things that are potentially going to happen. But that doesn't change his position on the tax freeze.
And we tried to make it clear to them that we would also support a tax freeze or some way to reduce the property tax burden on taxpayers, provided there was a way to make up or recoup the revenue from some other way. You know, so that the impact is negligible on the school district and on the kids. There was talk of a progressive income tax change. There was a talk of sales tax change for facilities. There was talking about just making the revenue come from different directions, and so that the property tax as a whole would be able to drop. But as we informed them, it would take a big swing in order to make a big impact on property taxes. Our bill is roughly in my house it's about $3,600 just for D46.
Right.
And in order to make a swing at that, they would have to come up with probably somewhere in the neighborhood just for D46 of probably about $9 to $10 million in order to make that portion of the tax bill drop.
Right.
And then you got to add that into the high school district. So you're looking, it's a big swing they have to make in order to do it. They have to be able to come up with revenue and a funding source in order to make that big change. So that's how we explained it to them.
Right.
I think everybody up here would support a property tax freeze, provided that there's some way to recoup the revenue from some other source, however that turns out to be.
And we stressed to him that the order in which these things are done matters.
Right.
So doing the tax freeze first is not, you're taking revenue away from school districts with no replacement. So it really needs to be a package of some kind where that revenue is replaced or enhanced or whatever in some way, in addition to doing the tax freeze or even a property tax reduction, if the money from the state is increased significantly enough where we'd be able to do that. So,
It's very similar to the conversations we had with Melinda Bush as well. Want to follow the same type of guidelines and give them the same type of concerns that we were worried about, because it matters. As he says, the order that it's done matters. They would almost have to do it in some sort of large package type of change in the way everything works. And it's a matter if they actually get to that.
What are you doing over there, Tom?
Somebody flew back with me.
Thank you.
anything else? Go ahead.
Well, there's a national social media underway for students and staff to walk out of school. First time was today, and two other times, March 14th and April 20th. We talked about it here within the district, and while we certainly, our hearts go out to, and prayers go out to the victims and families in Florida, we feel that allowing our students to leave the school outside when everybody knows that's the times they would be out we would be unable to keep them safe. So we'll be doing things within the school. I know Marcus, at least at the middle school, we'll be talking to his staff. And I did send out a letter yesterday and gave some examples to do things with the children, listening to their fears and their concerns, limit their exposure to the media, and just to do a lot of reassuring. And there were also a link to some other connections. So it's not that we don't feel very badly for these families and for what went on. It's just that we want to make sure our students are safe And we feel that being in the schools is safer than being outside where we cannot control what's going on. So just if anybody questions you, I'll be glad to talk to any parent. I've had a couple call me today, and after talking with them, they seem to be a little calmer about it. We finished our NWEA testing, and now we're getting ready for park. And when does that start, Amanda?
It starts middle of March for our 5A buildings, and then after spring break for our K-4 buildings.
And this will be the last year for the park as it is right now, so then we will be using something else.
Same company.
Pardon me?
It's the same company from what I understand.
Yeah, so like.
They're just making it a CAT test
Yeah.
instead, which is very frustrating.
It is.
We have not heard that it's the same company. So
It's
that's-
Meridian?
So that's new.
From what I heard, it was Meridian, and they have the whole bank, the whole
Oh,
item bank.
That's news. Well, I heard they were putting out the RFP for vendors.
That's what we got, the last thing from the state we got was an
That's the last
RFP.
I've heard.
Okay, well, who knows?
Yeah. Let's say it's up in the air.
Yes.
I just,
And we
the
also
rumor is
will-
it's gonna be computer adaptive testing, which defeats the purpose of
Correct.
finding student gaps.
For what it's worth, the headlines in Iowa were that they're to fight over, do they really still want the same outfit to run the testing? And they may go back to the Iowa testing boys to put all this thing together.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
So it's a battle all the way around.
It is.
I have to mention this thing that came over me about this whole tragedy over the last week. There is a whole group of kids who were born after Columbine. I never thought of that. And that's all they've known. They think there was a book called The Way It's Supposed to Be one time. They think this is the way it's supposed to be. And I can see why, especially at the high school level, if they're really ticked off. And this is long range for them. In my mind, 10 years now, this is something going to just fly away. But anyway, that really hit me like a ton of bricks. It's all they've known.
Okay, next, if I could have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
I'll move.
Second.
Question?
Parkinson,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye.
Meskel,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
There
Motion
was something
carries.
in my throat. I was like, aye.
The first action item, I will be reading through the title of each of the policies, so forgive the long-winded motion. Or I guess I could do individually 27,000 motions, but that seems excessive. First action item, if I could have a motion to approve the following board policies: 2:260, uniform grievance procedure; 4:15, identity protection; 4:110, transportation; 4:150, facility management and building programs; 4:170, safety; 5:20, workplace harassment prohibited; 5:90, abused and neglected child reporting; 5:100, staff development program; 5:200, terms and conditions of employment and dismissal; 5:220, substitute teachers; 5:240, suspension; 5:290, employment termination and suspensions; 6:50, school wellness; 6:60, curriculum content; 6:150, home and hospital instruction; 6:340, student testing and assessment program; 7:10, equal educational opportunities; 7:15, student and family privacy rights; 7:20, harassment of students prohibited; 7:70, attendance and truancy; 7:180, prevention of and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment; 7:190, student behavior; 7:250, student support services; 7:260, exemption from physical education; 7:275, orders to forego life-sustaining treatment; 7:305, student athlete concussions and head injuries; 7:340, student records.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions? Then we repeat the list.
Yes, please.
Just a comment.
I didn't quite get that.
You know, a comment for the audience, a lot of these are just updating on specifics, they're not all.
Legal reference, most of these were legal reference changes, yeah.
Okay. Weedman,
Aye.
Meskel,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Strack.
Aye. Motion carries. Could I have a motion to approve the resolution for full-day kindergarten for 2018-19, given receipt of state funds?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions? Remember, this is to approve the resolution. We still have the option to rescind the implementation if we don't get the money from the state that we're supposed to get.
Do we have any new information on any of the?
Sort of.
Yeah.
We think based on our meeting with Mr. Yangling today, we should hopefully know how much we're going to get in March, and then the disbursement will hopefully be by the end of June.
Worst case scenario in December, is what he said.
Yeah, which would be not good at all.
So if it gets vetoed towards the end of the legislative session coming up in June, they go on break, they wouldn't hit it, they wouldn't get to it till the veto session at the end of the year, which is basically in December.
It's supposed to be called a special session, I guess.
Yeah, they said if they didn't get a special session in, but, so, they should have it, the final veto override or final thing taken care of in, by April, and then he's got 60 days to give his amendatory veto if that's what he chooses to do. So it could get dragged out by him. The last time they said he vetoed it, amendatory vetoed it pretty quick, and then they turned around and overrid it. So that could be part of the scenario, but it could drag all the way out into December.
And even then, I guess, there's a chance they wouldn't override the veto. But, if bets are off, then it's not. It'd be that much, I say.
He seemed pretty confident we would have money probably sometime in June. That's one person out of all the people down there at the state level.
And all of the principals did a study on additional FTE that might be needed based on scheduling, based on specials, art, music, PE, things like that, and it's very minimal. We're looking at 0.6 FTE with some buildings that actually share employees right now. So the costs, the additional costs on top of that came back at a very favorable amount.
Does that correlate to one of your three scenarios, or that didn't, your three scenarios didn't
Nope.
consider that at all?
No,
No.
we just had the three scenarios, and then it was gonna go ahead and work on what the additional expenses that aren't directly full-day kindergarten, but obviously are because of full-day kindergarten, so that's where it was, 0.6.
Which is much, much better than we thought.
Yeah, I was thinking a little bit more than that, so I was happy.
All right.
All right. LaCroy,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye.
Maskell,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Parkinson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
You're gonna still come up with a deadline, type of
Yes.
timeline as far
Mhm.
as when to come back.
And they will discuss this at kindergarten registration, so they're aware that if we do move forward with all-day kindergarten, any kind of down payment for the tuition-based kindergarten will be refunded.
Okay. Next, could I have a motion to approve the recommendation of the position change for Frank Gianosa as the O&M assistant?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions? Okay.
Mack,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye.
Maskell.
Aye.
Motion carries. And lastly, could I have a motion to approve the recommendation for the summer school secretary?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Strack,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Maskell,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Motion carries. New business, the Durham transportation contract.
We talked a little bit about this when we were talking about in-house transportation. I sent a memo to the board. It shows some of our past expenses, what the new expenses would be at that 6% increase that they were talking about. And that's what Durham has proposed to us, a formal 6% increase. If you take away the additional revenues we'd received 1 year post, because the additional increases in revenues looks to be about $178,000. I put in a scenario where we get paid back at 60%. at 60% payback, that's $106,000 coming back to the district. So the overall impact on us would be about $71,000, $72,000, right in that range. I asked Durham for additional scenarios. They have come back and talked about a scenario where we keep the same buses that we have now, and the increase would be a 5%. They finally got back to us, I believe it was on Monday of this week. Now you're looking at buses, we have a 12-year maximum on our buses. There would be some buses in there that would be 13 years old. It would increase the average age of the buses as well. I was just asking for additional scenarios. Just wanted to see what that potentially would do. You're looking at the savings or the additional expenses of $71,000. They would be decreased by an amount that would be eye-opening by any means. It's a small savings compared, and you're also looking at older buses. Older buses have a tendency to break down. They need a little bit more maintenance.
But our current buses, 30 of them broke down in one day.
I mean, how old are, if our current buses are 12 years old anyway?
Not all of
Not
them.
all of them, no.
But they're staggered.
Yeah.
So it would just be adding an age, an additional 1 year to that.
If we were, what kind of increase would we potentially be looking at if we went out to bid? I mean, 6% seems high.
There have been
Would it be
stories.
a wash if we went to somebody else, or?
There have been stories, and we've actually had people in from competition that have told us not to go out to bid because the increases that we would see would be double digits, maybe even upwards 20%. It's just a really odd, awkward market right now. So many companies are competing because there's such a shortage of drivers that the actual salaries that are going up at a much greater rate than I think Durham or any of your other busing companies have anticipated. And Durham right now is offering one-time stipends for people that sign up that have licenses, or money. So it's a very competitive market right now. It's not the best for school districts by any means, but it's one of those things where, I've heard this story before. I know, Ellen, you've heard this story before, where somebody has gone out to bid and the increase has just been, it was jaw-dropping. So there is a secondary scenario if we look at the 5% increase and we continue that study for in-house transportation. Somehow, some way, if we can find the land, if we can find the space, if we can find everything that we need to do that, then obviously a 5% increase and increasing the age of the buses by 1 year. But at some point in time, if that does not pan out, you're going to look at, if we keep doing this from year to year, a very old fleet, and at some point in time, Durham's going to have to buy a lot of brand new buses, and then that's when things will increase quite a bit.
When they have to do that eventually anyway, right?
What's that?
They do that eventually anyway.
They do eventually.
They'd probably buy buses every year, I would imagine.
They do.
So,
It's a staggered. I think they've got 6 in a grouping here and 4 in a grouping there, and it depends how they use them and whether or not the district has need for them. Obviously, our students have gone down a little bit over the last 5 years, so.
what's the, sorry.
So wait, if you're saying if it's staggered, then the whole idea that they would have to buy a whole new fleet, or we are gonna see a huge increase wouldn't.
So if we do this for
Happen.
4 or 5 years and we find that the buses are very unreliable, and now instead of them having to buy 6 buses, now they have to buy 12 buses, you're going to see, because we no longer want to operate in a system like this. It's going to be, I know we did a study on the average age of our particular buses. I can't remember. I don't think it's a 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Otherwise, it's just that's a very easy, go ahead and we'll extend it 3 years, and then after 3 years, we'll go ahead and we'll get the 2 buses, and we'll get the 2 buses again, just like we have been doing in the past.
Is there any penalty to them? They have a mass failure of their buses where they can't get our students to school?
Financially, we, like for that, the day that 30 buses didn't start, we didn't have to pay for the routes that morning.
There is a penalty in the contract that states over certain minutes, I believe it's I believe it's actually 15 minutes after bell time or 10 minutes after bell time. If a bus has failed to show up for either drop off or pickup,
Right.
then there's compensation for the district. I think it's 50% of the route.
And that's been happening frequently, but Bambi takes she's really on top of it, so.
It's an email that goes out to
Yeah.
the busing company, and the busing company emails back, and then it's just a note to Bambi to make sure that that route on that particular day was charged at the correct rate.
What's the difference in cost to us between the 5% and 6%?
Quick math here.
Just roughly.
At 6%, we're at 178, so 5%, you'd be looking at 150, right around 149, 150, and then.
Same 106,000.
And then the reimbursement rate would be lower than that. It would be
Not that much, no.
between the two, so you're looking at $30,000, so you're looking at 60% of $30,000, so you're looking at 18, right, yeah, 18,000, about 18,000 difference.
Jason, you had a question, there's.
I did, yeah, I was wondering, so when you contract with a outside transportation company, I'm not sure what all the points are that are negotiated. I mean, is the fleet that Durham uses to transport our kids the same buses? Like day after day after day, or just central hub and someone grabs a bus, or?
No,
What-
they're the same.
The points that are negotiated are, so we negotiate the age of the fleet? Is that something that we pay more for if we want newer buses?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, in the original contract, there was an average age, and I think we extended that either last year or the year before. So it tells you what the maximum age can be and what the average age can be. So if you have, obviously, average age can be a little bit wonky if you've got a bunch of them that are at the top, and then you've got some of them, you know.
Now I understand.
Yeah, so.
Maybe median age would be a better.
Median age, yeah. However, it's not median age, but yeah. So last year, we actually went ahead and we extended the average age of the bus, but we did not extend the maximum age of the bus, if I'm recalling correctly. So this year would be a 1-year increase to the maximum age of the bus.
Is there something magic about 12 years? Age of the bus?
No.
We all can intuitively say the older the bus, the more likely it is to break
Right.
down. I mean, that's intuitive.
Yeah, I would assume that, yeah, from a standpoint from the vendor, I mean, they'll know, they probably have a cost analysis of, okay, there comes a certain age where this bus is no longer viable, is no longer making profit, but if this busing company here is willing to extend it, then obviously it is still a profitable bus. So.
Do we have a comparison from year to year of breakdowns and lost routes?
That we don't. Total breakdowns,
Bambi might have.
You're
that.
tracking it, yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder what the impact was between 2 years ago and this year, and if it was a major difference or not in buses being late or broken down or not doing what they're supposed to be doing, so that we have maybe a little more information on what another year increase might be as an impact.
some of that data might be skewed, because if you have some of the older buses that are breaking down, they always have substitute buses at their hub, so if they've got a bus that's down, there's a chance that we probably don't know about it.
But it's still, and that's fine, because they replaced it and we saw no impact.
Yeah.
But what about the ones where we did see an impact?
I'll
can
check
see
with
what
Bambi,
Bambi's,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll check with Bambi tomorrow and see if she's got, what data she's got.
It just, I just.
Yeah,
be
it's good, it's a good
interested,
question.
'cause then you can maybe see what, an extra year
Year,
of age
right.
on a bus might do.
When do we have to vote on this by?
We don't necessarily have a deadline. March, if you want to wait a couple board meetings, maybe the board meeting before spring break time. So we can get you information once we get you the information, it should just be a yea or nay.
Any other questions? Next, the RJB cleaning service contract.
Cleaning contract is up. It's been 3 years since the bid. I sent you their contract renewals, and then I put in there kind of a cost sheet, the impact that it would be. So what they're looking for is a 2% increase. The extent of the original bid allowed for a 2-year extension. So they're looking for a 2% increase for the work that they perform. However, if you remember, once upon a time, after SCC came in and RJB, the second low bidder, They agreed to take on the position. There was some questions or some concerns from RJB because they had lost some of their employees and they were basing their bid off of the employees that they currently were using in the district. Those employees weren't taking health insurance. The new employees were taking health insurance. I believe it was 3 of them. So we went back and forth a little bit, and we were talking about maybe there's a way to smooth things over and maybe extend the contract and make it something that might be good for both the vendor and the district. We went back and forth. Unfortunately, RJB, they went radio silent for a while. A few months later, I tried to reach them a few times. I got an email from the person that is taking care of the contract, and there was something that had happened personally, but she only reached out to me once. I reached out to her several times. I was going to make her reach out to me more than once, and she just dropped it. But one of the things that they were saying is that they were going to put health insurance into the new contract should it come back up based on those employees. So if you look at the prices, you can see that our contract was at $343,000. The 2% increase brings it to $350 the first year, $357 the second year. But they want to add in $1,285.80 for 3 employees per month. So that's an additional $15,430, bringing that initial contract increase up to 6.5%. And the second year, because the employees, it would be a flat increase on the health insurance. It goes down to 1.9%. I know they said 2%, but the grand overall total. So that's where that is at with RJB. I put some probably crazy numbers down below. A lot of it was for my own curiosity. This was the original bids from 2015. This is vendor 1 was RJB. The rest of the vendors that bid, minus SCC, I took them off the list because they failed to perform. And I just wanted to see where there would be, based on contract price, based on what their average cost was per year, what would be remaining in the contract. Should it have gone 2 years, and this be the 3rd year? The closest bidder, vendor 2 to RJB, the price that would be remaining on the contract after their original bid would still be $379,571, so it would still be above the price that RJB is asking for. Typically what bidders do is they'll stagger it and they'll say it's an X rate plus X plus 3% or 4% or 5%. So quite frankly, that bidder itself would probably be more likely to be in the 380s. And this is just all old data anyways. This is off the original bid. I just wanted to kind of show these are the bids that we received 3 years ago. You can see what the average cost was on each of them. You can see what the total 3-year contract was. So you can see about where RJB is in pricing. What I will also say is that I don't know which, I don't know which employees we happen to maybe lose from RJB, but I can tell you that these past 3 years, we have received minimal complaints. It's been my time here. Prior to that, it was
Constant.
yes.
Yeah.
So whatever has happened, it's been they've been doing a fantastic job.
Can I ask, is it standard? I mean, why do they break out the healthcare costs for 3 employees? That seems unusual to me, that we would be paying for their healthcare, their employees' healthcare, rather than them paying for their own employees' healthcare.
I'm certain it goes back to the conversation that we originally had when they came in, and then they said we lost 3 employees, and we have 3 new employees, and their pricing got thrown askew, and they said that they would have bid at a higher rate had they known that they were going to lose those 3 employees, because everybody had agreed to continue working for them. When they found out that it was a new company that was taking over, the employees started searching for other companies because RJB didn't necessarily have work for them. So when it came back to them, the bid had already been out, the bid had already been selected at the original firm, and they just said, well, can you do something for us, because this is not what we were expecting to pay based on what our employees were, that we had scheduled. And we, like I said, we went back and forth once or twice before they went radio silent on us. So,
how do we know that the money we're paying for healthcare is going towards healthcare insurance for employees?
that is a fantastic question. The money that we're paying is obviously just going to RJB, and it's going into profit margin for them. So it's whether or not they've been paying healthcare for these 3 employees for the past however many years, and will continue to pay healthcare for these 3 employees.
Well, I think that's that if we're gonna pay that money, that we need proof that they're paying the insurance.
I could tell them that we need proof, but I wouldn't know which 3 employees they were selecting.
I mean, I don't need to know who they are, we just need some kind of indication that they are actually putting the money towards insurance.
Okay. I can see.
To me, I don't know why they would expect, I don't know why they broke it out. To me, why wouldn't you just bake it into the annual cost that you have there anyway, and then we would never even know about it?
I think they were trying to explain and maybe justify the increase.
The
They
6.5%
yeah, I'm
jump
sure
at
that's
the
part
very
of it.
beginning.
specify what the additional expense was to those, or maybe just explain it once, and
Yeah, it just seems,
breaking it out does.
seems weird to me is all, that's.
Kind of
It's,
raise
you know,
some
it is a little bit odd. I will tell you, from the initial conversation before everything happened, it was stated to me matter-of-factly that, should we go out to bid again, they would have to increase based off of the employee. So I don't know, maybe this was just a way of showing, hey, this is what that additional increase means.
Could
Maybe
be.
they're just being honest.
Well, and that's fine, it's just, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Where it's, to me, I guess it's understood that if we're paying for a service and their employees are doing whatever, that, they have insurance through their company, that, yeah, part of what we're paying goes to their insurance, obviously, but it just seems odd to me that they broke it out that way.
I would say the only, reason for this is probably because of the conversations that had happened in the past. And they wanted their increase to be justified that first year, but in terms of I can get them to write us a letter proving, I'm not sure exactly what type of proof would be.
Well, I don't know if it's necessary really, but I don't know, it just seemed odd, that's all.
We can have a conversation.
And we can talk with them.
We can talk with them.
Yeah, at least find out,
We'll hold Mark.
maybe just ask them why they broke it out that way. Anything else? Future agenda items?
Well, we'll have possibly action and discussion on the bus contract, and we'll be bringing you back information about RJB. What else do we have?
There will most likely be an action item on something that was discussed and changed in the CBA. That was the accounts payable payroll coordinator no longer being part of the union. There is something that just has to go in front of the board and be actionable prior to, we have to go to the labor board to present the case before, and they have to sign off on it, so. Frederick School parking, we wanted to bring that up and put it on.
Yeah, we should.
Well, hopefully we'll have a response from the village by then.
I don't know if this needs to be an agenda item or if it's something that's just my own education, but this goes back to the safety plan that we just approved and everything. I'd like to know a little bit more about what the procedures are if there's an active shooting in the building.
Sure, we can bring that.
I'd like to, I know what happens in a fire drill, I know what happens on a bus drill and all that kind of stuff, but in this new day and age, I don't know, are rooms being locked down? What's the external communication? Is there texts that go out to parents? Just as a dad and as a board member, I want to get a better sense of what an active shooter environment type would happen in the building.
We'll bring you the stuff right out of the manual.
That's
so.
probably just education.
Sure,
I
absolutely.
think along with that, I think maybe those are procedures that need to be revisited,
Yeah.
not only with the school district, but with the fire departments in the area, because, is there a shelter-in-place option for any students, instead of everybody running into the hallways and becoming a target? Do you hold them in place until you confirm smoke, and then have them go out? That's a larger conversation, that's not only probably school, district-wide, but fire service-wide, because the impacts that fall into that. That's my opinion, is for my professional. I thought about some of that as those things were going on, as, they are pulling the fire alarm on purpose, and that's to get more targets. So you have shelter in place until you see a problem, and get the all clear to go.
And we do meet with the police and the fire yearly, but we need to schedule a new one. Usually it's around April, May, sometime in there, so.
Now, do they record actual problems with the building? So my daughter was saying that in her room, the door wouldn't lock. So, you know, is that being tracked and?
Yes.
The comment you had about fires, here's a guy that just got out of the Navy, and here he is in a school, and they have a fire drill. And we took fires very seriously at the Navy. You might say, why would you take them seriously? They got all kinds of water. Well, ships do bad things if they get too much water in them. And so Archimedes figured that one out. So I'm watching my first fire drill in a school, and the kids just sort of go outside the main door and stand there. I mean, good grief. And so at least we went through, made it real after that. At least get away from the building, and it'd be worthwhile to look into it.
And buildings have changed over times as well.
Mhm.
I mean, this one is completely sprinkled, so the likelihood of fire spread is very minimal. Now, Woodview, on the other hand, who didn't have a complete sprinkler system in it, or Avon, those are different animals. But,
Yeah.
you know, again, as in my profession, you start thinking of ways to prevent issues. And that's one thing that I've been thinking of in the last couple of weeks or so. And, you know, I've talked to our bureau about maybe seeing how that can change. But that's gonna take a national effort in order to make that type of a change.
One of our issues is who do you give keys to? You know, we had one principal ask for keys for substitute teachers to have keys. And that's a concern because how do we know that they're gonna get the keys back? How do we, where they're substitute teachers, there's, you know, we don't, even though we do background checks, there's still a concern there. So we'll be talking about that at leadership team, trying to figure out the right way to handle all these.
And then, what are we doing just about social emotional issues that might come up? I know you said we have a resource for teachers and how parents should talk, but.
The social workers in each building have been available to talk to any kids that are concerned. And so, you know, you try to do the best you can. You don't know how much discussion you want. Sometimes you open more up by having discussion. So up to this point, if there's been an issue and it, you know, we see somebody that's upset, then they've gone to the social workers. I don't see it much in the K-4. Have you seen anything here at all?
No.
You know, K-4 is oblivious.
It's really been at GMS that most of the issues have occurred.
Public comments? If I could have motion.
Wait.
Hand that came up.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Can you give us your name and where you're from, please?
Sure. My name is Adriana. I'm from the Round Lake area. I am a mother of a kindergartner who goes to Avon. And I guess my concern was going back to the safety procedures. To me, everything that's been happening has been really traumatic. Being a mother, you know, you don't know where your child's future is as far as like schooling and protection. I guess my question is there a way to have teachers be more active with parents, like sending, you know, like packets home with their kids, like this is, you know, what's going on, maybe try paying more attention, how to talk to your child, like if the situation happens, like kind of parents talk to their children to let them know, like, you know, calm down, don't freak out, like you're gonna be safe. So that's kind of like where I'm at with that. Like, is there a way to have more of a parent-teacher conversation happening so that parents at home can also like make sure that they know that their students or their children are safe at school?
Can you leave your contact information?
And I can give you a call tomorrow, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Then if I could have a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to the sections of the Open Meetings Act listed in the agenda?
Second.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Mesco,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye?
Weedman.
Aye.